So welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar where we will create an e-commerce platform with Flotiq, Gatsby, Snipcart, and Meta API. We will start with the Flotiq part, and I will. So the aim is to create a new Flotiq website on my side because I'm from Meta API, so I will do the Flotiq part, and Andre from Flotiq will do the Meta API part. So you will see how we manage all of this. And maybe Andre, you want to do a small introduction about Flotiq?
Yep, sure. The system is all about storing content that you want to be available for your web-based systems. And we're kind of a content management system that is generally called headless content management systems. So what we want to deal with is content, not specifically content for websites. So basically, whatever you want to store in the system, you can, as long as you can define what is the content model. So what attributes basically you have that describe your data. And obviously, content management systems are very popular in building websites. So this is still a large part of the applications that we cover. And this particular webinar is also one of these. But this is not just limited to websites. You can use this content in let's say mobile applications and watches for streaming data into ad screens or any other place where you need to feed that with data. What we do a little bit differently than other CMS systems that you might see with headless CMS systems is we focus on the API being your personal API that you actually define and build. And this is something that Matthew is probably going to show also in his demo, and we'll be touching this throughout the webinar.
And of course, at Meta API, we love the way you expose your website as an API because it makes the resiliability and the extensibility of this kind of platform so wide because you can connect it to everyone. Of course, we will connect it to a front end, but we can do also a lot of automation and integration based on that. So that's why it's great.
So the open API support, we basically open the content to any other system.
To start, as Andrew said, the first thing to do on Flotiq is to have a nice type definition on what we want to do. So I already have a type definition right here, which is a product. For this webinar, you can use the template to auto-generate all this content and push some template directly inside your Flotiq account. So you can go. I will give you the link of this GitHub, and you can use this following command line, which will initiate all the front end and also inject all the define the type product inside your Flotiq and also generate a new item. But you can, as Andre say, you can go inside your. So I have here all my type definition. So I just have for now product, but you can imagine you have product, customer, review if you want to manage, for example, a review from people. If you create, I don't know, a blog, for example, you will have a post, writer, etc. So it's very flexible. You can do everything you want. And for example, for this demo, you will see later, but I will have to add here a new field name quantity, and so you can very easily add a new property, name it. I could add name it stock, for example, and say, okay, this field is a number, and it's require. You can set default value, etc. So it's very flexible, and everything you do on Flotiq will reflect the. I will save it to show you. It will be reflected directly on your API documentation. So the documentation will be generated, and you will see, for example, if I go to the list of product here, the property I just add reflect here inside the API, and I will delete it because I don't need it. Save it, so I have a warning. That's okay. Generate it again, just to show you guys. Oh, the stock is still here because maybe we need a refresh, but
you might have clicked too fast, yes.
Yeah, too fast. But my point is to say that everything you define inside Flotiq will reflect the API directly, and the Open API specification file will be updated with this property. So that's great. And we previously add some content. So we have some product with slug, a unique identifier. We have some price. We can also set up images, product gallery, and we have some quantity. You will see later why we will use it. So first, I need to. So my backend is ready, but I need a front end. So I will take the Gatsby and I will deploy it to Heroku. Okay, so I need here some setup. So I will set an app name. I will deploy it in Europe. And I need to configure some variable is because we need to create a connection between the front end and Flotiq, and also snipcarts to manage everything. So I have I can have some word about API and API key because that's essential on Flotiq. So you can access your API key here. Of course, we are showing our API key here in this demonstration, but we will reset it again, of course, but you have to to keep them for you, of course. And you will see that you have two default key, a read and write key. So this one is sensible, of course, but you have also a read-only API key here, but we will use it. And you can also define a specific API key on some product and on some property. So the best practice is to set up API key with the least privilege possible on each item, because you don't want, if you have like a leak of your API key, of if you are doing a webinar like we are doing like this and you don't reset this key, that could be dangerous. So that's a good practice to do it. And for my application, I need to set two keys. So this one will be the general one to access everything on Flotiq. So I will take this one. And the second one is only to check product quantity. So I have this key. As you can see, it's scoped on product and only with read permission. So that's perfect. I just need I just need that, and I have also my snipcart API key right here. And for Google Analytics, that will be your ID for Google Analytics, but I don't have one. I just put some random value. And let's deploy it. So it will take some time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes for deploying everything. So maybe meanwhile, you have do you have Andrew some best practice to tell everyone about API key, or I have covered everything?
Well, I think you mentioned the most important part, but I think the real catch is with what you're basically trying to build. If you're building a site that has some content that is public and you actually intentionally want to make it public, like the list of products and the stock availability and things like that, is something that you probably will publish anyway because it will be visible on your website. So you don't really need to worry that the API key is going to be visible somewhere in the source code, this one that is used for the quantity check. But if you have a key that actually allows you to make changes, then this is probably the one that you do not want to share. So you need to be careful which one you choose and which you do not share. But basically, our users are sometimes asking us why or how can they hide these API keys? And well, our answer is, if you really need to hide it, then there's probably an additional layer of or additional service that you need to put between your website and Flotiq.
Yes.
And that layer could be just like Meta API in this case. We will be actually doing some modifications using Meta API, and this will allow us not to give away the private key for the product update.
Yes, you're right, and you usually add, like you said, another layer, like a backend layer, and maybe use your own, authentication to access it because maybe you will have to manage the user with your own token or something like that. So you will rely on this layer of authentication to hide the key from everyone. And also, of course, you can use a Meta API to do this. Okay, let's check the build.
Perfect. Still building.
Still building.
So in this case, you just took the repository that we have, the starter, right?
Right.
And you basically click the deploy to Heroku, and that's almost the end of the process, right? The only missing part is that you plug in the API keys, and then it just works, and it's really nice. It's mostly due to the simplicity that Heroku has on their end. And we have a similar deployment with Netlify as well. It's pretty simple to actually deploy anything to their clouds.
Yes, that's great. Okay, everything went fine. So I will just open a new e-commerce, and perfect. I have everything right here. I have some product. I can click on it, some description. Can move between product. If I click to add to cart, perfect. So the cart is supplied by Snipcat, right? So we are using their backend to manage everything, and we will use them to manage all the order and payment process through Snipcat. So I have my Snipcat right here. So everything is like it's done automatically, and I just have to plug their own public API key, and everything is automatic on their side. So let's try to buy this bottle. Seems nice. I will fill up a name, email. We are here in Paris. Take an address, perfect. The card number. That's not my real credit card, huh, guys. You don't have to steal it. 1, 2, 3. So I'm ordering an object. So if everything was right, we will have a nice confirmation screen. But in all our e-commerce process, we will missing a link because right now there is like no way that Snipcart can discuss with the Flotiq to say, hey, someone order a product, so you have to subtract the quantity from this product. So let me try again. That's strange. Let me redo the process. Add to cart, just one.
The demo effect.
Yes, of course, every time. 5, 1, 2, 3.
It might be because your Snipcart account was probably plugged into a different set of products before.
Ah, okay.
So you can try with the tea ingredients, the other products, the default products.
Yes.
You have a green tea. Yes, this one.
Snipcart actually does some checks on their end just to make sure that everything is working.
5, 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. So I have here my order, but if I go back to Flotiq, to the product, here for the green tea, the quantity haven't changed. I was 6 before, I'm still 6, so we have a missing link between Snipcart and Flotiq, and that's the second part of this webinar is how you can use Meta API to create this link and to say, okay, an order has been done on Snipcart, so I need to update the quantity on Flotiq, and when the quantity will be 0, I will see it. I can't order this product anymore. So that would be the job, Andrew, to create this link.
Yep. Let me share my screen now. Yeah, I guess the process starts with Snipcart being able to send a webhook from their end. So whenever something happens, like a product is purchased on their end, they will actually inform us on the URL that we provide them. And the URL will be hosted on Meta API, obviously. Share my screen now. So my Meta API account is almost empty. I have just a couple of spells that we're using internally for Flotiq and a couple of things that we've played around with. But when you will be setting this up, the first thing you will have to do is to actually import the Flotiq API into your Meta API account, because we do not have Flotiq API in the catalog here, because the catalog is full of public APIs that are generally available. And with Flotiq, your account is really just yours. So it's your API. You define what you store in the system, and we don't make you automatically publish it. So and also we don't have it because of that in the catalog here. Yeah. So and also if your data in your account is something that you want to make public, then you probably can submit this to the Meta API catalog. But for now, we're just making it a private API. So to import it in my account's API catalog, I will need to provide the the link of the OpenAPI specification, so the one that is actually describing my API in Flotiq. And for that, I will need to ask you, Matthew, to provide me the read-only API key.
Yes, so I will give you my read-only API key. So I go on it, copy. Okay, do you receive it?
Yes, I got it.
Perfect.
So I'm now passing the URL of the OpenAPI schema. As you can see, guys, the Meta API works beautifully, and it went under this URL, and it saw that there's an API there, and it was able to understand what this API actually consists of. So it saw that it's an open API specification. It pulled in all of the details of this API. And the only thing I just need to do here is to specify under which category I want to add it.
Maybe you should rename it to be sure to take the right one inside webinar. Perfect.
That's a good point. It's not like we haven't tested it, yeah. Okay, so now I have the API imported. So the endpoints that are available are now going to be seen by Meta API. It's also displaying the documentation as it saw it in the original URL, and it sees the endpoints that are provided under this API key. So it's ideal. And the next part now is when we have this API imported, we can now create a spell which will process the data that are coming into and do something with that data. And we're going to use this to actually complete this entire integration and update the quantity of items we have in our store.
That's right.
So I'm going to create a new spell, and I'm going to use a connector from the API I just imported, the one here. Sorry, I could have cleaned this up. So this is the connector, and we will be doing two things in our in the processing of this request. One is we will receive data from Snipcart, and this data is going to contain the information about what were the products that the user has bought and what were their quantities. So we will look up the product that we received from Snipcart in the Flotiq API just to make sure that it actually is there and nothing has gone wrong on the way. And then after looking up that product, making sure it exists, we will update this product and decrease the available quantity of the product. So I will use two endpoints. One is the get product endpoint, and the second one is the endpoint that allows me to update the product. So now Meta API asks me to provide the authentication for these endpoints. And what I could do is I could actually authenticate with my read-only key for the get endpoint and with my read-write API key for the other one, but I think it's just going to be simpler to use one for both. So Matthew, if you could now send me your API key that allows us to update the product quantity.
Yes, because as I said before, this key is a specific key I have created to only read and update the product inside Flotiq. So I won't use the global read and write API key, which I allow access to everything inside Flotiq, but just this API key. So I send it to you.
Okay, got it. Okay, and same for the other one. And now I will be triggering this with a webhook. So this is the one that I'm going to choose because that's how Snipcart will actually reach our integration. Oh, I see you guys did some changes, right?
Yes.
This is new.
This is new. You're absolutely right. So we generate automatically the webhook URL that I need to configure on Snipcart. So we will be able to listen about what's coming from this webhook, and you will have the payload coming from Snipcart, yes, directly just here. So you can send me perfect. So I have your key.
I shared this with Matthew.
Yes, so I'm going to Snipcart and I'm going inside the setting. Yes, just to show you how you will have to configure some webhooks. So I'm going on Snipcart inside the account. I have clicked on webhooks and I have set up the URL. You can see inside the URL we have the spell ID, a parameter to set it's true, so dev equal true. So we have two different environments inside Meta API. You have a development environment and a production environment. So we will send the webhook inside the dev environment, and we have an auto-generated API key linked to this. So I will save it, and I will generate a new order on the shop to generate a webhook event. Okay. So I'm filling up everything. 1, 2, 3. Checking this out. I save it. Yes, it's okay. Process the order. Okay, perfect. If I go back to Snipcart, I should see right here two new events sending from Snipcart. One to say a customer has been updated, and the second one that an order has been completed. So back to you, Andre. If you click on test trigger, you should have some data coming from the webhook. Perfect.
Yeah, that's actually that makes it a lot simpler. That's
yes.
Great update. So the next part is just giving a name to the spell. That's fine. And let's create it. So by default, when I create the spell, the Meta API is going to insert some basic code into the editor that basically allows me to start working. The two important parts are these connectors. So this is one of the connectors, the one that is getting the product from the get product endpoint, and the second one is the connector that updates the product information.
That's right.
And this entire script is going to be processing the payload or the data that is coming from Snipcart. So if we look at the data that Matthew just sent, this has a form of an object where under the items key, we have an array of items that were purchased by the user. So the entire event is basically consists of the content which stores the items that were purchased. And in these items, there's two important fields that we will be dealing with: the ID of the item that was purchased, and the second one is the quantity. So how many of these items the user purchased. So that's what we will be playing around with. Just to make the demo a little bit more complete, we're also going to check what is the event name, because Snipcart is sending several kinds of events, and we actually want to only see this event that is called order completed. So the first thing I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to check for event name and see if it equals to the
it's order.completed, yes.
Order.completed value. And if yes, then I will be processing this entire thing. If not, I will not do anything. Right.
Perfect.
So sorry guys, just a sec. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the processing of the event, when we started, the first thing we want to do is to kind of unpack the items that are passed to us. So for each of these items that were purchased by the user, we will actually execute the entire process. So we will decrease the amount of stock that is available. So I need to create a loop that is going to pass through all of the objects that are in the content items of the payload that I'm receiving. So I'm just gonna write it as item in params dot content dot items. And this entire thing is actually going to be executed for each of these items, right? So I will remove this one for now. So again, for each of these items, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be calling the Flotiq API to check whether the product exists in that API, and then I will be updating the quantity of the product. So let's call this maybe a little bit more concise. Sorry, get product. This is just my variable name, so it's fine that I update it the way I want. And the important part now is that I actually identify the specific item, or verify if the item that is passed from Snipcart exists in Flotiq. So I'm going to do a query on the Flotiq API that will allow me to make that check. So I'm going to create a filter. It's pretty simple to create it. And the syntax is basically, I'm going to be checking if the slug equals a specific value. In this case, it's the ID of the item that is passed from the snip cart webhook.
And with this system of filter, you can have like complex filter checking with multiple property at the same time with different comparison between them. That's right?
Yes, it's a little bit more elaborate, so you can apply different kinds of filtering to find different items. There's also another even more complex search engine in the Flotiq API, which actually allows you to do even more powerful things with ranking and aggregating the results. But this one is simple to use, yet it gives you good enough flexibility to cover most of the cases. So once I define this filter, the next thing I need to do, which is really nice and I really like it, is to just pass this information or this query into the connector. And this all is built by Meta API based on the Open API definition of my Flotiq API. And now I'm just passing the variable that I defined into the filters.
That's right.
And the result should be that I'm able to verify if the product is available or not, or sorry, maybe not available, but is actually defined in Flotiq API or not. So I can write a simple check in here to make sure that it's returning the proper amount of products or not. And then the next thing I will be doing is to make the update of the amount of or the quantity of the product that it should be left. So this is the second connector instance that I will be playing around with. So the one that is updating the quantity of the products in the system. So I will just define the instance of the object based on what I downloaded from Flotiq. So this is data 0, should be the first object that is returned, and it will have an ID. I'm just going to map this to a variable that's going to be easier for me to then plug it in into the connector like that, right? So Flotiq item.id, I think it's like that. And let's call this update product. It's up a little bit. And
so we are using while you are writing it, we are using the spread operator in JavaScript to not to redefine all the field inside the Flotiq item because there is a lot of field. So we are spreading all the properties. So we are using JavaScript property to do this. So we are spreading all the object and then overload the quantity field to say, hey, the new field is the current quantity minus the quantity that the user order.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, as you can see, the editor here is quite smart. So it's telling me that I can only use the spread operator on an object that is, or a variable that is an object. So, and I have not claimed that here. So let me clean this up a little bit, and now the error is gone. So I will be the update endpoint on Flotiq works like this: that you actually have to send in the entire object, not just the part that is changed. So I'm actually providing the entire item as I fetched it, exactly as I fetched it from the Flotiq API. with the one change in the quantity. So I'm updating the quantity, just decrementing, decreasing the amount by the number of items that was purchased by the user.
That's
and that's it, with one little exception that I need to provide the ID of the product because that is part of the required parameters of the connector. So let me choose the variable that I specified this in. And this is basically the minimum version that should work. Do you want to check it?
Yes, sure. Let's check it. Since you are sending the same payload we had previously, I think that will act as a legit order and decrease the quantity. Perfect. I see. You see 5, and if I check on my side inside the Flotiq interface, I see 5 also. Great. Perfect. So it's on our development version is working well. So the last step we have to do it is to say, okay, we have a working version, so let's publish it inside Meta API, and let's make it like legit and put it on production.
So this is not going to be a draft version anymore. Okay.
Perfect.
So does the same URL that you got previously work? Because this is a new change, so I'm not sure.
Yes, almost the same. You can see just below the V1 version. Yes, we because we had a snippet on the previous page, but it's the same like this. As you can see, it's almost the same that I put inside the snip cards, but we just one parameter missing. It's the dev equal true, which is just for saying to use the development version you are working on your editor, and now it's a production version. So I just you see yes, that's right. That's the only parameter, the only difference. So I can go safely on Snipcart, and I will edit the URL. I will remove this parameter. That's it. I will save it, and I will try to create a new order. And if everything went fine, you will see on your side, Andre, a new incoming request inside the monitoring part. So let's buy more tea.
So we should switch to Matthew screen.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Lika. Okay. Continue to payment. So just to sum up, guys, I have edited this URL to remove the dev equal true parameter. So I just have the URL to the spells and the API key just behind. Okay. My credit card. 2 free placeholder. Okay. So go back to you, Andre. So you can go back to Andre's screen. Just refresh your spell detail. And perfect. We see 2 events. That's okay, because the Snipcart webhook sent to us 2 events, one for the customers and the second one for the order. So I think the first one just have a console.log to say, hey, I have nothing. You can click on the arrow at the end. Yes, that's right. You can see all the log right here. Perfect. So the second one is the update, and we see, okay, we see new ring. That's perfect. And if you expand the second object on the second request for the update, we see a new quantity of 4. That's perfect. Congratulations. Everything is working well. So that's it. And of course, on Meta API, you can like start a new dev cycle, for example, adding a new connector to, I don't know, if you want to generate a notification on your Discord for each new order, you can do it as well with a sum up of all items ordered by your user. And of course, you can add more information on Flotiq to for example, to manage, as I said, the review. If you want to add review, what could be the other thing we can add on the Flotiq side?
Well, one of the things that we often see from our customers is actually asking how they can integrate with things like MailChimp. So just plugging in their email address into a mail drip campaign or something of that sort is a very popular thing, and well, it's really simple to do this with Meta API. And then depending on the framework you're using with Gatsby that we've used in this one, it's really nice because you can actually use Meta API to hide away your private API keys. Otherwise, with Gatsby, it's a little bit hard to implement any kind of logic or anything outside of a very simple website. And you always need to figure out a little bit, well, okay, I have something that is maybe not exactly just a simple website. I need some business logic. How do I put it? Where do I put it? Well, Meta API is the great place to do it.
Yes. Thanks a lot. So I think we complete everything.